Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, Matthew Dickinson. G'day.
Good morning, Rod. Great to hear you back in the chair. I haven't heard your voice for a few weeks.
Yes, about 5 weeks or four and a half weeks, something like that. Nice to be back here. Now, what happened? You got arrested last week.
Well, look what happens when you go away, Rod. You leave the studio and next thing you know, the Mayor of Dubbo gets arrested. I had a guard storm into the office on Thursday morning, had a couple of people with him. They put some handcuffs on me, put me in some orange clothes and took me downstairs. They had a police officer waiting downstairs, marched me around to Old Dubbo Jail, threw me in a cell violently, and then, unusual when you get thrown in a cell, I was handed a mobile phone, a pen and paper, and said, there you go, ring your friends and we'll take bribes to get you out. And of course, this is all a fundraiser for Arana Support Service, raising some money for youth homelessness. And the idea was for me to ring enough people to raise some money to be allowed out of jail. Now, I managed to do that. It took me an hour or so to go through and ring enough people to say, please go and donate some money. I haven't actually heard the final figure they've raised, but they had a few other people they arrested as well. They had another person who was the former Mayor of Dubbo, Greg Matthews, former Deputy Mayor, Richard Martin. They had some people well known around Dubbo for some of the work to do. Jamie Crump was there. So a few people there arrested and all about this fundraiser. And I thought it was interesting, Rod, because when there are so many different charitable organisations out there, you've got to come up with something a bit different. You've got to have a bit of a different angle on things rather than just hold a dinner or hold an auction. You've got to try and come up with something a bit new and a bit different. And this certainly was a bit different. I have had it happen before. This has been a fundraiser they've certainly done before, but it is a bit different being thrown in Old Dubbo Jail. And what was funny for me, I'm not sure if it was funny for people coming through, but while I was sitting there in the corner of the jail cell, making phone calls, stirring up some money, then there were normal patrons who were visiting Old Dubbo Jail, and I saw one mother there coming along talking about the next cell, and there was a mannequin in my cell and talking about the fact they might be sitting there reading the Bible, and they come around the corner and sitting there looking at the mannequin, and then they looked in the corner and saw a real person there, and I think they both got a bit of a shock that there's a real live person in one of the cells there. So they found it all a bit different and interesting, the fact that there were real people in these cells. So very realistic, they thought it was.
Wonderful. And all in support of the Arana Support Project?
Arana Support Service, yeah, that's an organisation here in Dubbo, and they were raising money for youth homelessness. Actually, a former councillor involved with that. Tina Reynolds runs that organisation, so she does a great job with that. So, yeah, all good fun, all things to help raise some money and do some good work in our community.
Okay, so you got arrested, and also you went on the run.
Went on the run, that's right, Dubbo Stampede yesterday. Maybe I was still thinking about being arrested on Thursday, but the Stampede is a great event, and there's no other event that I know that you get to have the opportunity to run around a zoo and run around our beautiful Track-a-Riley cycleway. So there's a 5K event, 10K, a half marathon and a full marathon. The half and the full both go around Track-a-Riley and around the zoo. The 10K and the 5K use more of the zoo and along Obley Road there. But it is an event that attracts people from all over the place. So I'm sure there were people from the far regions here in Dubbo over the weekend. I didn't actually get to talk to any, but I did meet some people from Orange, some people from Bathurst, some people from the Blue Mountains. So certainly people do travel for this event. And it was a bit rainy, a little bit of rain around, a bit of a sprinkle, but not too bad from a running perspective, kept you a bit cool. I ran in the half marathon. That's a popular event. And again, just you get a spirit that there's a real camaraderie out there for people out running there. I must admit, you don't chat to people much while you're running. I'm too busy trying to breathe. But I have retained the self-created title, Rod, as the fastest half marathoning mayor in the nation. A couple of weeks ago, you were away and you didn't hear about it, but a lot of noise was made about the fact that I was the fastest mayor in the city to surf. I might have been making that noise, Rod, but I'm happy to claim these titles until another mayor in the nation comes along and officially knocks me off these titles.
You're doing great work for Dubbo Regional Council and promoting the place.
Well, that's all part of it, isn't it? It's all part of just trying to make sure that people are aware of Dubbo, and even our zoo. People are aware of our zoo, but it's not sometimes until they get out there and visit it, they realise what a wonderful facility it is. And I must admit, the first time that I ever did a run, and these runs have been going for a while now around the zoo, but the first time I did a run around the zoo, I didn't know we had hills in the zoo. I'd always driven or ridden bikes around the zoo. Sometimes I'd gone for a walk around the zoo, but when you're trying to run in a competitive race around the zoo, you suddenly discover there's hills in the zoo. But again, it's all part of the wonderful assets that we've got here in the zoo in Dubbo.
All right, and it's the promotion of Dubbo is so important, and it brings in new citizens.
New citizens this Friday. We've got another citizenship ceremony. This will be the last citizenship ceremony I'll get to do in this term of council. Before Friday, I will have made 404 people Australian citizens. And it is an incredible honour, Rod, one of the duties as mayor, to be able to make people new citizens. And of all the events that I do, of all the things that I'm involved with, my personal favourite is a citizenship ceremony. There's such a buzz in the room. You've typically got about 30 people becoming new citizens. You've got their family, their friends. You've got people in the room who are just excited about what's about to happen. And so it is a very uplifting experience. And you also get to talk to people afterwards and you hear their stories. What brought you from your nation to this nation, which is fantastic. But then out of this nation, 7.6 million square kilometres, you chose Dubbo. You chose this little 7,536 square kilometre patch of dirt to call your home. And I love to hear the stories about how people ended up in Dubbo, how people ended up in this nation. So it is a very uplifting experience. It's going to be a little bit sad for me being the last one that I'll do in this term of council, but also still a very exciting experience.
And people do fly in to Dubbo, and you've got something to say in regards to Rex Airlines.
Well, people are still flying with Rex and, of course, flying with Qantas as well. Now, they went into voluntary administration at the end of July. That certainly made people a little bit nervous about buying tickets on Rex. The administrator takes over at that point in time. They run the business. They're trying to run the business in such a way they can sell it or have it trade out or basically have a future. And so we did see immediately after that, flights were leaving from Dubbo with maybe 2 or 3 people on the Rex flight, and the Qantas flight was absolutely chock-a-block full. So I can understand why people were a little bit nervous about that to begin with, nervous at buying a ticket, not sure if that ticket would be honoured. The federal government has come out, they've made an announcement, and they said if you buy a ticket on Rex, they will guarantee that ticket during the period that it's in voluntary administration. So in other words, if, for example, the whole airline falls over and they wind it up completely, you'll get your money back guaranteed by the federal government. So that gives people a bit more confidence, and I think people are starting to fly. I was out at the airport yesterday and saw some people going into a Rex flight, and it looked like it was a reasonably full flight, so people are starting to fly with Rex again. The other thing that I think people are a bit confused about is some people are thinking that Dubbo Regional Council has waived the debt that is owed by Rex when they went into administration. Now, we were owed $659,000, not a small sum of money. That's to our airport for passenger fees and security screening fees. But across the nation, there were about $600 million owed to various creditors across the nation. Of course, most people understand at the point the administrators take over, then all that money is in doubt. We certainly have not waived anything owed to council by Rex, but as part of that voluntary administration process, the administrators will go through, they'll look at that sum of money, that $600 million that's owed to various creditors. They'll try and do their best to recover as much of that money as possible, but I don't know many times companies go to administration and you get all that money back. So I doubt we'll be paid that $659,000. We might get paid 10% of that. We might get paid 5%. We don't have much choice in that process. Going forward, the administrators have guaranteed the payments for our airport going forward from the date that went into administration. So at the moment, we're being paid the correct fees by Rex. In the past, we probably won't get paid all of that, but some people have asked why we haven't just stopped Rex flying, but I think it provides an important service to residents who are in Dubbo and the region, both in and out. So I don't know that would be the best thing for the community. I don't love the fact that we won't get a lot of that money back, but we also want to make sure that that airline is still viable because we still want at least 2 airlines servicing Dubbo. So it's complicated, it's annoying, it's frustrating, but at the moment they're flying. They'll still pay us money going forward. We'll get some of that money from the past. Not sure how much we'll get of that, but we'll just have to wait till that administration process goes through, which is a fairly complicated process that has to occur.
We're hearing from Matthew Dickinson, Mayor of Dubbo Regional Council, and you are so right. It is important that people right across, not just Dubbo, but the Orana region, the far west of New South Wales, have access to a service like Rex and Qantas, so we can drive into Dubbo and then get on the fast plane to Sydney for appointments and maybe even another plane to go overseas.
Yeah, that's right. And I think one of the things, Rod, that's important is having two airlines service a port like Dubbo. Keeps the prices down, there's competition, but also services the number of passengers we have. Last year we had 195,000 passengers go through our airport. If Rex was gone, it would be hard for Qantas to pick up the slack. And I'm sure another airline would come along and service that, but that means you've got to get that airline, they've got to get set up, they've got to get up and running, you've got to get the slots in Sydney, that's always a challenge. So it's not going to be easy. The best solution for people in this area would be for Rex to trade through this, come out the other end. Yes, I'd love to get paid as much of that money as possible, but ultimately we still want that airline flying. And we can't just say, one person suggested to me, just stop Rex from flying and say they're not allowed to fly until we get that past debt paid. But of course, once the company goes into administration, you can't have preferred creditor payments. You've got to go into the pool as an unsecured creditor. So we don't even have that option. It's fairly limited in terms of the options we have. We've really got to wait for this process to play out.
Yeah, I wish the federal government would get on the case and make airlines more viable, because it's a great way to travel. Now, what's happening with the water, the filters?
One of the things that people probably don't realise, Rod, is the amount of work that goes on behind the scenes that we don't typically talk about that much. We're not putting media releases out about it. But at the moment, we're doing filter replacement. There's 6 filters at the water treatment plant, and you need to replace those filters on a regular basis. Now, these filters where the water passes through to try and capture some things that are chlorine resistant. So, for example, cryptosporidium, which is has a terrible impact on humans. If you get crypto, then that's something that needs to be picked up by filters. So you replace these filters on an ongoing process, an ongoing cycle. We replaced filters 5 and 6 back in 2019. Filters 3 and 4 were refurbed in 2023, and then we're now doing in 2024 filters 1 and 2. We've got to do them during winter because we need to reduce the amount of output the water treatment plant can process, and obviously in summer we're producing more water than in winter. So we're doing that at the moment, but they're no small things, Rod. This is a $710,000 project and started back in July, will be finished in the beginning of September. So it's a big project to replace those filters. It's not like a little filter you might replace in a water treatment facility you might have in your home, just a water unit that you might have in your home. It's a pretty big process. It involves cranes, it involves some fairly sophisticated equipment and some specialist people coming in to do it as well. So that's happening at the moment. People wouldn't really notice any difference to their water at the moment. We're doing that in a time to have minimal impact. But I just thought it was interesting, some of these things that go on behind the scenes where, and I did talk to a group of school kids the other day during Book Week, and they said, what does council do? What are some of the things council's involved with? And the first thing that I always think of is, Rod, is you get up in the morning, turn the tap on to have a drink of water or to clean your teeth or have a shower. You don't really think about it that much, but council's there doing the right thing, treating that water to a standard that's the Australian Drinking Guidelines standard, Australian Drinking Water Guidelines standard, making sure we've got that. But we've got to do a lot of work in the background and make sure that water is treated to an appropriate level.
I love Dubbo water. It's lovely, beautiful water.
Oh, good.
Better than some places, let me say. Now, you're going to go back to jail this week.
Yes, back to Dubbo Jail this week, old Dubbo Jail, not the real jail, to do some more fundraising, this time for the Vinnie's Community Sleep Out. So that's one that happens each year, and what a location to have the sleep out. Vinnie's sleep outs are done at various locations around the state, probably around the nation, but I don't know too many that are done in a jail. Now, of course, it's the old Dubbo Jail, so it's not an operational jail, but it's still a bit freaky, right? I've done it before, and just being in a place where people would have been locked up, they would have had to sleep there, would have been not wonderful conditions. And I tried it last year where I thought I'd try sleeping in the solitary confinement cell, and I thought that'd be interesting, let's try that. But it was pretty freaky, actually. You can't see your hand in front of your face. You can't hear much in there. Now, I could walk out at any time, but if I was put in that cell back in the day and I was in there for a day, a week, I'm not sure how long people might have been in there for, I reckon it would have been enough to drive you a bit stir crazy. No one to talk to, no one to really converse with, no one to even hear in those cells outside. It's pretty freaky. So I'm not sure if I'll sleep there this year, might sleep near the gallows, might just sleep in the exercise yard, but anywhere you go, I think is a interesting experience, and again, raising money for people that are sleeping on the street with the Vinnie's Community Sleep Out.
Well, you have fun. Now the limerick.
Sure, I've got a limerick for you to finish off on. I like to throw a limerick around every now and again. A wonderful form of poetry, very disciplined form of poetry. But I thought with my lock-up in Old Dubbo Jail last week, I'd finish off with a limerick for you, Rod. So here we go. In the Old Dubbo Jail I was placed, but my spirits were never erased. With a laugh and a cheer, I made it quite clear that for charity no time would I waste.
Well done. Thank you so much. You have yourself a good week.
Right, thanks, Rod. Always my pleasure to chat.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.